Okay, so I have a quick question for you. How do you feel on a day-to-day basis? Do you feel good? Or are you more so in the tired, stressed, moody, can't focus to save your life camp? Because a few months ago, that's exactly how I was feeling. Due to life circumstances, my energy and mood was at an all-time low, and quite frankly, I just felt like absolute shit. But then I picked up and read this book called Brain Power by Catherine de Lange, and I decided to implement the advice from the book because I was tired of feeling like ass, and making the changes the book recommended genuinely helped me start feeling good again. So the whole point of the book is that everything psychological is biological, and that if we want to feel good, then we need to take care of the organ that influences how we feel, our brain. So in this video, I want to go over the 5 key areas the author talks about to keep your brain healthy and happy, covering why each area is important, how they helped me, and how you can make changes in each one too. Starting with the most obvious place to look when you feel like shit, your diet. So we all know that eating healthy is good for our body. It can help protect against things like heart disease, diabetes, cancer, all that really fun stuff. But what you shove in your mouth doesn't only affect your physical health. It also has a huge impact on that squishy thing inside your head. The thing is, your brain is one hungry little guy. Making up just 2% of the body's total weight, it consumes a whole ass 20% of your energy, meaning what you feed it matters. Through what's called the gut-brain axis, the gut and the brain are in constant communication with each other. Now, one major way these two are in constant conversation is through your gut microbes, which are the trillions of bacteria living rent-free in your digestive system. And these little dudes aren't just breaking down food. They are actually producing the neurotransmitters your brain needs to function properly, which is why scientists have actually started referring to the gut as our second brain. So these microbes produce neurotransmitters like serotonin, which is linked to mood, noradrenaline, which helps you stay alert, and dopamine, which plays a super vital role in stuff like mood and in our ability to plan and learn. In fact, a whole ass 50% of our dopamine is produced in the gut, which is just insane. But this is all to say, when your gut microbe is thriving, so is your brain. And when it's not, then you can feel foggy, anxious, low energy, and emotionally off. Thankfully, taking care of your gut isn't rocket science. So, what do these trillions of microbes living inside of you like to eat? Plants. A fuck ton of plants. According to gut health expert Megan Rosie, the golden rule is to eat 30 different plant-based foods per week. And that can include stuff like fruits, vegetables, legumes, nuts, seeds, herbs, spices, and whole grains. Unsurprisingly, this way of eating happens to match how people in the blue zones eat, which are the areas in the world with the highest percentage of people who live to be 100 or older. 2 of those 5 zones actually follow the Mediterranean diet, which is built around plant-based foods, healthy fats, lean proteins, and very little processed shit. So what I've been trying to do is follow the Mediterranean diet as best as I can, especially focusing on just adding more plants and healthy fats to my diet. And honestly, since making these changes, I can easily tell on the days that I eat like garbage, I feel like garbage. But if I have a healthy day of eating or opt for healthy foods, I always feel more focused, more mentally stable, and more energized. So yeah, if you've been feeling off recently, a great first place to start is to take a look at your diet and what you're feeding your gut, because it matters. So the next key area is physical exercise. Exercise is a literal powerhouse for your brain. It actually increases a protein called BDNF, which supports neurogenesis, aka the growth of new brain cells, especially in the hippocampus, which is the part of the brain responsible for learning and memory. It also stimulates the release of important neurotransmitters like dopamine, which helps regulate mood and motivation, GABA, which calms the brain, and glutamate, which helps brain cells communicate. One study found that people felt more energetic and positive immediately after exercising. Even just 5 minutes of dancing was enough to release feel-good chemicals and elevate their mood. In terms of exercise, both aerobic exercise, like walking, running, dancing, swimming, and resistance training, like weightlifting or body weight exercises, offer their own unique benefits. So aerobic exercises can help with attention, memory, and neurogenesis, whereas resistance training can boost your executive function, which is your ability to plan, focus, and make decisions. So in my own life, I have started to incorporate aerobic exercise more often into my exercise routine, because before reading this book, I was basically only doing weightlifting, but the combination of the two is really ideal. So I try to get in at least a 30-minute walk every day. And another really important thing is how often you exercise. Studies suggest that 3 to 5 times per week is the sweet spot for mental health. More than that doesn't necessarily give you any extra benefits, and less than that may simply just not be enough. But here is the most important part: how you feel while you are exercising. Research shows that people who are forced to do high-intensity exercise that they don't enjoy experience a dip in mood, which is the complete opposite of what exercise is supposed to do. So the key isn't to just do any random exercise, it's to do something you actually enjoy. The next key area is mental exercise. So just like your body needs physical exercise, your brain needs mental stimulation. Now, you've probably seen ads for those brain training apps that promise stuff like sharper focus, better memory, and a higher IQ if you just play their games for 10 minutes per day. But here's the thing: research actually doesn't back up their claims. Those apps mostly just make you better at the specific brain games you're training, but it doesn't really help you in other ways. What will actually give you a brain boost is what humans have been doing for thousands upon thousands of years: good old-fashioned learning. So that could be things like learning a new language, learning to play a musical instrument, or just picking up any new skill or subject. In my case, I'm currently learning Spanish, which will be my second language. I was learning how to play the ukulele, but apparently I bought a really bad low quality one, so I threw it out and just haven't gotten around to buying a new one. But it is my goal to learn an instrument. And then on top of that, I am also taking a course in psychology and world history. Interestingly, ever since I started learning a second language, I actually feel sharper and like my memory is better as I study my other subjects like psychology and world history. It's like I've literally trained my brain to concentrate more deeply. And there's actually science behind this. Studies actually show that bilingual brains tend to have more white and gray matter in regions tied to cognitive processing, which could explain my experience. Many researchers also believe that learning a second language can strengthen executive function, the part of the brain involved in focus, self-control, and decision-making, though the evidence for this advantage is still very mixed and debated. In another study, adults with no previous music experience took piano lessons for 6 months, and they showed significant improvements in executive function. So basically, mentally stimulating your brain, whether that's learning an instrument or learning a new language, can help you improve your focus and executive function. But learning isn't just about the brain benefits. Just the act of learning is rewarding in of itself, and using those skills can add a level of joy and fulfillment to your life that wasn't there before. And that is certainly what I found in my own life as I've been learning all of these new skills. Which is all to say, learning is important, but learning something that brings you joy will bring the most benefit to your life. And one app I've been using to learn that has brought my life tons of joy is Brilliant, the sponsor of today's video. So Brilliant is not a brain training app. It is specifically an interactive learning app with courses in stuff like math, programming, data, AI, and more, with lessons crafted by an award-winning team of researchers, teachers, and professionals from places like Stanford, MIT, and Caltech. Personally, I've been using Brilliant's science course as I study psychology to strengthen my foundations in science, and it has been super helpful for making concepts stick. The lessons are hands-on, so instead of memorizing or passively reading, you're actually solving engaging problems that build your understanding from the ground up and train your brain to think more critically. And because the lessons are bite-sized, it's super easy to build a daily learning habit that's actually fun, which is most important when it comes to keeping your brain happy and healthy with mental stimulation. So to learn for free with Brilliant, head to brilliant.org/BrieDoesThings, scan the QR code on screen, or click the link in the description. Brilliant's also giving viewers 20% off an annual premium subscription, which will give you unlimited daily access to everything on Brilliant. And thank you, Brilliant, for sponsoring this video. All right, let's talk about the next key area, sleep. So we all kind of know sleep is important, but unfortunately, we also live in a culture that treats it like a waste of time and glorifies hustling and staying up late or whatever. But here's the thing. A lack of sleep doesn't just make you tired. It absolutely fucks up your ability to function and regulate emotions. Sleep is so important when it comes to things like clearing out brain waste and helping you learn by forming memories, but it also has a huge impact on what you remember. The thing is, your brain doesn't treat all experiences equally. Like, you don't wake up remembering everything that happened to you the day before. And that's because the brain prioritizes storing away memories that are emotionally charged rather than the more mundane stuff. Like, if you almost get hit by a car one day, your brain's gonna file that memory away for safekeeping and not what you ate for breakfast, because the memory of you almost getting hit by a car is going to be more useful for your future survival and not the brand of bread you ate. But when we're sleep deprived, the brain actually operates a bit differently. And this was demonstrated in a study where one group of people stayed up for 36 hours before learning a list of positive, negative, and neutral words, and another group got normal sleep before learning the same list of words. 2 days later, the well-rested group remembered more emotional words, so both positive and negative, which makes sense as our brain tends to hold on to emotional memories, whereas the sleep-deprived group remembered 60% fewer positive words, but just as many negative ones. Which means a lack of sleep doesn't just make you tired, it literally skews your memory toward the negative. So it's no surprise that a lack of sleep is closely linked with anxiety, depression, irritability, and chronic stress. You are literally running on emotional overdrive and your brain is not helping you regulate any of it. In my case, whenever I get less than 9 hours of sleep, I feel like complete ass. I have insane brain fog, I get super grumpy, I can't focus, and I just feel incapable of handling life. Which is why, since finishing this book, I have been making a huge effort to fix my sleep so I can consistently get the 9 hours I need. And there's 3 things I have been following from the book that I found most helpful. So the first thing I've been doing is getting early morning sunlight as soon as I can in the morning to reset my circadian rhythm. The second is avoiding caffeine after 1 p.m. And the third is going to bed and waking up at the same time every single day, even on the weekends. So if you're feeling like shit and your sleep schedule is also shit, well, that may be a big reason why. The next key area is social life. So as much as the brain depends on what you do as an individual, what you eat, how much you sleep, how much you move and learn, it's also shaped by something deeply human, your social life. Humans evolved as social creatures. We are meant to live in groups, we rely on each other, and we find safety and joy and connection. But unfortunately, in today's world, more and more people are feeling isolated. And Loneliness doesn't just feel bad, it is literally physically and mentally damaging. According to researcher John Cacioppo, loneliness functions like a biological warning system, much like hunger or thirst. That's why loneliness triggers the brain's stress response. It ramps up inflammation, the immune system's way of preparing for danger. And while inflammation is helpful in short bursts, chronic inflammation, like that caused by ongoing loneliness, can damage tissues and increase the risk of diseases like depression, Alzheimer's, and cardiovascular problems. But loneliness doesn't just impact your body, it literally rewires your brain. Studies show that people who are chronically lonely tend to become hyper vigilant. Their brains are always scanning for social threats. They're more likely to interpret neutral behavior as hostile, expect rejection, and withdraw even more, which creates a vicious cycle that reinforces the loneliness. Sleep also suffers, and lonely people report worse sleep, which, as we've seen, makes it harder to regulate emotions and feel good day to day. Thankfully, though, the good news is you don't need hundreds of friends to fix this problem. What matters is the quality of your relationships and whether you're happy with your social circle, no matter how big that circle is. The important thing to know is that you can be surrounded by tons of people and still feel lonely, or on the opposite end, you can be completely alone but not feel lonely. So your perception influences how you feel. In my case, I moved to a new city about 2 years ago, and for the first year that I lived here, I did not make any new friends, and I was pretty depressed for a lot of that time. Reading this book, though, made me realize that I need to get off my ass and make an effort. So I did a couple things that helped me put myself out there and meet new people and make new friends. So the first thing I did was go to hobby groups like book and hiking clubs. Another thing I did was volunteer, which allowed me to meet lots of really nice community-centered people. And the third thing I did was use the app meetup.com, where I could go to meetups and meet people who are into very specific things like philosophy or entrepreneurship or whatever. You have to keep in mind that building a social life takes time. And if you're introverted and shy like me, it can feel like an insurmountable task. But being social is a skill and not a personality trait, which means the more you do it, the easier it gets, and repeated exposure is key. Your brain needs people, so you have to make an effort to find yours. And yeah, these 5 areas, diet, sleep, exercise, mental exercise, and social life, that I read about in Brain Power have helped me go from depressy McStressy to a much more reasonable mental state where, on average, I wake up feeling pretty good and happy. I highly recommend checking out the book if you want to dive deeper into the science or into other techniques you can use to help your brain be healthier and happier, like fasting, eating brain foods, doing meditation, yoga, and so on. I'll link it in the description if you would like to check it out, and buying the book through my link will also support my channel as well. But that is it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.